Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Saturday, April 1st, 2023. Got to remember that date when you're out there watching social media sites. A lot of phony stories going on today. 2023 is the year. It's about 12:23 p.m. here along the West Coast in California, and the latest earthquake shows a 1.8 up into the Alaska region. Notice quite a bit of uptick here on the earthquake 3D globe, including the West Coast area of California. Let's go ahead and look into it here, see what's got this earthquake 3D so cluttered. Getting quite a bit of earthquake activity along the West Coast. We kind of seen that happening last night down here in Southern California, where they had a four-pointer. A 4.2 to be exact there at the Palomar Observatory, Palomar Mountain region. That is just off of the Elsinore fault system. There's a couple different segments that run through here. And they did have, looks like a few aftershocks following that 4.2, with the largest one so far. Looks to be another 3.1 in the mix there. 12 kilometers deep, somewhat deeper earthquake activity for this region. This is actually on this activity is actually in relation to a broader scale uptick here across the West Coast region, starting up here around the Blanco fracture zone, around the Cascadia subduction zone southward. Definitely seen an increasing activity event take place. The 2.5 map shows that elevated activity. Let's see if we had anything above 2.5 aside from these quakes in Southern Cal. Doesn't look like it, but we did see a little bit of activity in general picking up here in Southern California yesterday with that 2.7 off the coast of Los Angeles as well. The Bay Area, San Francisco getting in on some activity as well this morning. It looks like a 3.2 near the San Leandro area. That is on the Hayward Fault, another dangerous fault system that runs through many different communities of high population. Also further down south along the just off the San Andreas Fault on the southern end of the Calaveras Fault Zone, seen a 2.8 yesterday. Also some activity in the Northern California and off the coast there. So definitely seen some broader movement. I'm going to leave up the earthquake watch today because it could be an interesting day. We'll keep an eye on it. Elevated earthquake activity taking place, and a lot of it's microquake activity, but still we're noticing a little bit of uptick on a broader scale across the entire West Coast region. Also down here, right about the intersection of many different separate faults here, including a plate boundary. It's going to be the San Andreas Fault here. Seeing a couple smaller quakes right on it. 1.1 and a 1.2 today. This area definitely part of the bigger picture when it comes to producing a bigger quake. That is, this area is locked and loaded, so to speak, the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. So we've got to keep an eye on that. See if we've got any swarming, but any movement in or around it, on or around it, I should say, is noteworthy to watch. Got one earthquake here off the Little Lake area, 0.9, and some smaller quakes within this region outside of the Ridgecrest area. Aside from this movement near the Palomar Mountain Observatory, or Palomar Observatory area around the Palomar Mountain, most of this activity along the San Jacinto Fault Zone is some microquake activity. Not seeing anything specific, no swarms on the San Andreas Fault for now. Again, this is just to the west of the San Andreas Fault. North of the Desert Hot Springs, a couple smaller quakes throughout the morning period. Either way, again, I'm keeping up the earthquake watch for the remainder of the day due to elevated conditions out here taking place. Kind of curious to see how deep this one up here was this morning. By the way, the three-pointer kicked up here about 9 o'clock or so this morning today. That has been followed up by a couple other quakes, including a 3.2. So hard to say in this type of setup if there's going to be a main quake, or if there was a main quake. Doesn't look like it because these magnitudes are. There's really no main quake like a 4-pointer and then a bunch of 3s and 2s. It's just kind of just elevated right now within this area. So we'll continue to watch this. About 6 to 7 kilometers deep for these earthquakes on the Hayward Fault Zone. Let's see where this was felt at. Mainly around the Bay Area. Just some generally light shaking there around Berkeley, San Francisco, Hayward area, all seen and reporting. Well, not seen, but reporting a little bit of light shaking throughout the area. So we'll keep an eye on it, right? West Coast, be on guard today, it looks like. Good reason to. Cascades. What do we got? A couple smaller quakes here from yesterday. Nothing going on too much this morning. Looks like we did have a 1.2 just outside of Mount St. Helens. That one coming in earlier this morning, it looks like. Yellowstone National Park, it is a weekend, so most of the time these guys are not going to report anything above 2.5. But I was checking that out earlier this morning, and it still looks fairly active. Let me show you guys here real quick. Excuse me. All right. Sometimes it's a little on the slow side. There we go. So this is the general overlay of Yellowstone National Park showing the seismograph stations in location. And the current Yellowstone swarm is ongoing at around the borehole area, Lake Yellowstone area of Wyoming. And looks like overnight and this morning, still seeing a pretty good amount of earthquakes, nothing big. And I believe when a 2.5 does pop up here, that does automatically go up onto the earthquake map here. But as you can see, there's really nothing showing up. We did have a 3.6 over here in southern Idaho off of the Sawtooth Fault. It's been a little while since we've seen activity there. That was about 5 o'clock this morning. So, ongoing earthquake swarm at Yellowstone. Nothing major, all below 2.5, but still a fairly good amount of earthquake activity there at Yellowstone so far today. Rest of the country looks pretty quiet. A little bit of movement down in Texas. That's about it. 2.8 from this morning, well outside of Pecos, Texas, close to the Delaware Mountains. All right, let's see what else we got here across the area. The Alaska region, still seeing quite a bit of movement across the Cook Inlet area. Up north through Denali, not seeing any major activity though. Looks a little bit less active than California does, so sometimes that happens. All right, one earthquake over here. Northern end of the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, just in the Russia area, 104 kilometers deep into the subduction zone. We've been watching this for a little while. It's a major accumulator of slip rate. This area does see a fairly high amount of slip in this area. Variable accumulated slip rate around the Japan and the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. Looks like about 83 mm per year. We haven't really seen any major activity here in a while. Japan region, a couple earthquakes from yesterday. One from way early this morning, about 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock last night, I should say. 5.0, a little 5.0 into the Japan Trench. Although this one pretty quiet. A little surface, or pretty shallow, I should say. A little surface earthquake activity up here at 17 kilometers deep. A little quiet, yeah. All right, what else we got here across the area of Indonesia? Looks fairly active across here today. Getting a cluster of earthquakes again around the New Guinea area. Look at the earthquake 3D model here. Yeah, show some fours out here. Nothing major though. The Philippine plate looks generally quiet around the west and the eastern, western side and the eastern side. Know we had some activity up here around Taiwan a couple days ago, but it looks pretty quiet there for now. Deeper, goodness, look at that deep earthquake here. Which one's that going to be? Got two earthquakes here in the Vanuatu area, kicking off this morning within minutes of each other. A 4.7 and a 4.9. Not big earthquakes, but these depths here are, goodness, 648 kilometers deep. For one of them, it is in a zone that does see quite a bit of deep earthquake activity here historically. This is going to be 4.5 and above. Since about 1900, the deeper quake's going to be in the darker circles below 300 kilometers in depth. It is kind of in an odd area. Most of the time we see all the deeper movement quakes being triggered out here around the Tonga Trench. A little bit more shallower, and of course the more shallower earthquakes are in the white circles, just around 70 kilometers and above. But here, it's kind of in an odd area. There's not a whole lot of activity here since about 1900. There's a few earthquakes, so something brewing down here into the, well, it would be this trench zone. Just outside of the Vanuatu area, a little small trench. Might want to keep an eye on this area for some larger scale movement over the past 7 days. Let me go 30 days, 4.5. We've seen a little bit of upstream activity, it looks like here, but not specifically. And what do we got here? 4.8, 5.7. A couple moderate-sized quakes here into the upper levels of the trench, but still, keep an eye on this area today with this deeper movement. That's a little concerning, so watch this area pretty closely. Let's see what else we got further south. Looks like a 3.3 there in North Island, New Zealand. We'll give a quick glance here at the GeoNet servers. 3.2, the GeoNet is reporting. A couple other smaller quakes as well, looks like, over the past few hours. And we'll just verify that and make sure we're not missing anything major out here. There's going to be that 3.2 showing up here around North Island. A couple other smaller quakes prior to that, but not really seeing anything major blasting off here today across New Zealand. All right, let's see what else we got here. One earthquake from last night into the southeast Indian Ridge. Let's see what else we have across the area. There's a 5.1. Let's see where that's at. Kind of looks like that's in the Iran area. About 9 o'clock this morning, seeing a little bit of activity out here. Also around the Himalayas, we did have a 4.6 coming in there to Nepal region. That was late last night, it looks like. Most of the newer activity shifted west here across the area. And as noted on the Earthquake 3D globe, kind of showing that as well. Just outside of Turkey to the north. And looks like seen a pretty good amount of aftershock activity there today around the Turkey region, mostly 2s and 3s, but there's a couple 4s out there within the vicinity. And a little bit of earthquake activity coming in off the coast of Morocco, I believe right now, 2.5 or near within that strait, 80 kilometers deep. Atlantic Ocean pretty calm and clear, looks like. No major movement, according to the USGS and the EMSC model as well. South America region getting in on some deeper earthquakes, it looks like this morning, into the Peru-Chile Trench. Notice all the white color rings indicating some newer movement, not showing up here on the USGS map, but it is taking place there on the Earthquake 3D globe. Mostly some 2s and 3s, but remember there some deeper activities could be triggering, could be getting ready to trigger some upstream larger movement. On the map here, though, we got a couple 4s, somewhat deep up north here as well into the Peru area, 217 kilometers for the recent quake of 4.7. Puerto Rico Trench area, pretty, goodness, this is fairly absent of earthquake activity today, so not for sure what's going on. EMSC model showing roughly about the same thing for this area. Middle America Trench, though, got a couple newer earthquakes there. Looks like a 3.7, 3.8. Well, that's, let me see where this is at. That's a little bit further south. Probably about the extreme southern end here, right around the Costa Rica area. Seen a little bit of uptick. All right, let's see what else is there. Hawaii. Got one earthquake up here north. 3.2 near Volcano. This is just on the Helena Slump area. Getting a little bit of movement here on the southern end of that area. No major movement, though, to take note of. All right, space weather. Let's see what we got for... Oh, I got to show you guys this here. For folks that don't know, I'm sure a lot of people do, but earlier this morning, the SolarHam site kind of got me because I do check out the solarham.net site very often. And I seen this pop up here on his Facebook page. It's Kevin's, that is. And I was looking at it on my phone, so I wasn't able to see all these Photoshop images combined into one sun. But I read this, and it said, in a never-before-seen space weather event, 4 major solar flares at the exact same time were just detected around various regions across the visible disk. This forced NOAA to pull out the heavily guarded Z-flare chart, which is required to measure the total X-ray flux output. So I kept reading, and I was like, okay, I'm starting to see what's going on here. This was an April Fool's joke. Pretty good. Not bad. There's quite a few April Fool's jokes being pulled on people out there across the social media platforms. Just a heads up. Oh goodness, but pretty good. Not a bad job. They're posting some. It looks like some older X flares into a combined shot here for the sun. Fairly impressive. Could you imagine that many X flares though popping off? Who knows? That'd be. You just never know. We're coming into the solar maximum, so it's possible. But up there in the Y and Z category, I don't know about that. Either way, good job there, Kevin, on putting that together. All right, the real SolarHam data, looking at it right now, is a lot more calmer, wouldn't you say? I would say so. Not really seeing any major flares at all. In fact, we're below the C-flare category threshold. Look at that. C-flare line's right about here. We are entering into an extreme diminished amount of solar weather activity right now. The SFI solar flux index there, 129. That's very low. A look at the current sunspots that are on the visible disk here, Earth facing. Well, there's not a whole lot. I mean, well, there's a few, right? But there's not even one out here that would harbor any potential of even a C-flare. And that's odd. Definitely odd, but we do go through these little phases here of minimal activity. This is probably appropriate. 50% chance of a C-flare, M-flare, less than that. X-flare, less than 1%. And that's how it's going to be for a little bit. I don't really see anything on the far side of the sun that we would expect, to rotate here into the Earth view at all. So we'll just continue to watch that and see how it plays out. Just not a whole lot of activity on the sun currently, which means very minimal solar weather conditions for the Aurora sky watchers. Not a whole lot expected here over the next few nights. Alrighty, guys, I'm going to jump off here. Severe weather threat today, a lot less than what we've seen yesterday during that tornado outbreak there. Man, goodness. So it looks like most of the severe weather shifted up along the East Coast. You can see here the highest category so far is the enhanced. A lot less than what we've seen yesterday with that high risk. But there is still, a moderate chance of some severe weather out there around Pennsylvania. New Jersey area. Also down south here into portions of Virginia, it looks like. Norfolk in there. So just a heads up. Tornado potential. Greatest threat up there, 5% in the New York area. A little bit of wind events up there as well. Hail potential, very minor at 5%. And over the next couple days here, day 4 is showing a renewed high-end event here for areas that just got hit with severe weather yesterday. So a big heads up. We'll cover that here as we get a couple days closer to day 4. And that's going to be on Tuesday, April 4th. So make sure, we'll keep an eye on this. This could change, but when the Storm Prediction Center puts out a high-end alert on the weather this far out, then it means that ingredients are coming together in the weather models to possibly, forecast another outbreak like we seen yesterday with tornadoes and some damaging hail and wind and all that stuff. So we'll cover that here in a couple days as it gets a little bit closer, but just a heads up. And then after that, it looks fairly quiet, at least for now. But either way, it's best to be prepared, right? You can never be prepared too early. Alrighty, guys. Have a good one. Stay safe out there. We got dry conditions out here in California right now. It's cooler, but we're not really expecting any rain right now for the next few days. Kind of gives us a little bit of time to dry out here in California. We've seen quite the winter, and I'd say I'm kind of ready for maybe some 70s and 80s and some sunshine. I need to work on my tan. Goodness, I've never been this white in April. Normally I'm at least getting a little bit of sun tanning out here in March when it starts to warm up, but it's been quite the winter out here, and the sun in moderation can definitely be a good thing. It's obviously very healing, but too much obviously not good. Alrighty, guys, have a good one. Stay safe out there. Again, watch some areas around this trench here, around the Vanuatu area, and of course West Coast with the elevated conditions here yesterday and continuing in today. We'll keep that area in mind for some potential further movement throughout the day. Have a good one, guys. We'll catch you a little bit later on tonight.